Hampshire College has tapped its 7th president, Miriam Nelson, a prominent health and nutrition scholar, scientist, professor, administrator, and government policy advisor. Nelson earned national recognition for her expertise as a scientist and as the author of groundbreaking studies on public health, nutrition, and civic engagement. She spoke with me in the studio about her forthcoming role, which begins in July, a recent alleged anti-Semitic act on campus, and more.
Everything that I've learned about Hampshire College just seems like it's the right fit and the right time for me. I've come from 3 decades of working in higher education, first at Tufts University and then at the University of New Hampshire. And what I've seen is, I started out as a nutritional biochemist, and then you start to see how do we create change in the world. And so my work has gradually shifted to be more civically engaged and to think about public policy. And then when you start to think about actually creating change, it's really about helping to educate the next generation of young adults to go out into the world and to create change. And so for me, it's a natural extension. And being at a place like Hampshire College, which is so progressive and rigorous and experimental, is really the perfect place.
With that research background for you, too.
It does.
I read, I think it was in the Boston Globe, that you felt like maybe you should have attended Hampshire. And I know you have New England roots when it comes to your education personally, but what caused you to say that you feel like you should have been a student there?
I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I like being creative and innovative. I've always looked at education from an interdisciplinary sort of perspective. So both from the creative and the sort of communications and how do we create social change, as well as the rigorous research. And so looking at Hampshire College and this inquiry that goes into how students create their own majors and how they work with different faculty members, community members, how they get engaged in the community.
It's a really different education model, I think, than many people are used to when they think about a liberal arts college.
It is, and so that would have really resonated with me, but now I get to be there. And, thinking about no grades doesn't mean that there isn't rigor. When you look at the deep narrative reviews that these students get, you realize that they're actually like young professionals and they're getting amazing feedback. And
the number of Fulbright honors, especially whether it's administration or students that have come to be attached to Hampshire in recent years, I think also speaks to that point that you're saying.
Leading in Fulbright scholarships, and a very high percentage of our students, our graduates, go on to graduate school.
Yeah. One of the challenges that you'll have to take on when you come on full-time, outgoing President Lash in March needed to deal with an act of anti-Semitism that took place on the campus. Have you spoken with him about the status of that investigation? I know you're not on board officially until July, but has that been something that you two have discussed yet?
Well, I'm not president until early July, and so that is really for Jonathan to be handling and the whole campus. What I do know is that what I want to work really, really hard on when I get to campus is to work with the students, the faculty, the staff to make Hampshire College a welcoming campus so that people are respected, and make sure our visitors are respected, and that we have good civil discourse, but that it is a very welcoming campus.
One of the things that the president of the Anti-Defamation League of New England told the Boston Globe back in March was that once the investigation had taken place into this alleged act of anti-Semitism, that he hoped that this would be discussed publicly. And I imagine that when you come in, it's something you'll have to take a look at.
I'm sure I'll be fully briefed, and I want to make sure that on all topics we have full discussion and transparency.
Yeah. One of the things that's been part of your background is looking at nutrition guidelines, both under President Bush and President Obama, and it's something that's looked at every 5 years. In 2015, when those guidelines came out, the big change there that I recall was regarding sugar and putting that cap on sugar recommended cap for folks in the populace about sugar. We're a few years away from the new guidelines coming out. Do you anticipate any sort of major change there that you foresee?
Added sugar has been one of these areas where the food supply has gradually increased and increased and increased and increased in the amount of added sugar because the palate has changed, because we're increasing the sweetness. And so it's important, especially for children, that we can come up with some upper limits. With 2020, I don't know what's going to happen with the guidelines, but what I actually hope they focus on is from 0 to 2, which is this is the first time that the guidelines will be looking at birth to age 2, and there's a lot of work to be done there. So that's what I hope they focus on.
Interesting to look at that. Yeah. In terms of your research background coming in, I know you're still assessing the campus and getting used to the area. Have you had a chance to think about whether or not you think that Hampshire should sort of lean more heavily toward offering research to its students in terms of something that they can choose for themselves?
Well, students do a lot of research already at Hampshire College. So they're publishing, they are using that base to go on to graduate school. So there is a lot of research that's going on with the faculty have exceptional scholarship. So coming from the research and being a faculty member for so many years at Tufts, I really hope to bring that expertise and to help be the champion of all of the students and the faculty when I get there.
One of the things that outgoing President Lash really made a big change on campus was looking at admissions and the taking SAT scores sort of out of the assessment that many colleges and universities use, and Hampshire no longer uses that as a guideline. Is that something that you think you'll keep?
I would assume that I'll be keeping, but again, I'm not there yet. But what's fascinating about the recruitment is to really think about who thrives at Hampshire College, the exceptional student that thrives. So I don't think we're going to abandon this right now, because it's really about finding those exceptional students that are looking for that progressive and unique education.
Another change, and I think it's something that you have shown that you're interested in, is toward the environment. Current President Lash, outgoing President Lash, put a 2020 guideline for this college looking at sustainability. Have you thought about changes that you think that you might implement?
President Lash has set a phenomenal foundation from which I can take, especially around sustainability. And sustainability is really around environmental integrity and social justice and inclusive prosperity. So all three. So it's really important that it's not just the environment. And at Hampshire, we really look at it in the broad sense. So that'll be something that I will definitely continue, because I believe in social justice, I believe in inclusive prosperity, and I believe in environmental integrity.
About 90%, 91% of Hampshire College students receive some form of financial aid, but still the annual sticker price for 1 year is about $62,000 or upwards of that. How do you think that we should be looking at this challenge of cost broadly in higher education?
Well, all of us in higher education, especially with the liberal arts private colleges, need to be looking at the value of the education. And in fact, our Hampshire grads have some of the lowest, when they graduate, the lowest debt. But together, we need to look at the affordability to make sure that these students are getting the value out of it, so that they can really thrive and have phenomenal careers and really fulfilling lives.